My name is Reno Omokri. I'm at the Nigerian Embassy in Washington, D.C. I'll be talking to a couple of Nigerians about the recently concluded presidential elections in Nigeria. President Goodluck Jonathan has just been declared the winner of the elections by the INEC. He's been presented with his certificate of return. Malam Nasir El-Rufai, a friend of mine and a supporter of General Muhammadu Buhari, is in town, and I'll be talking to him about his feelings about the elections. I'll also be talking to a couple of supporters of the presidency. We'll have a balanced view. Join me. I've spoken with several persons. I've spoken with the Nigerian ambassador to the US. I've spoken with Ambassador Robin Sanders. I've also spoken with Ambassador Jenda Fraser, the former assistant US Secretary of State for Africa. I've also spoken with the President's chief strategist, Oronto Douglas, and I'll be speaking very shortly with Peter Pham of the Atlantic Council. Now, I have here with me Malam Nasir El-Rufai, a mentor of mine, and I want him to tell us his impressions about the elections, because there's always two sides to every tale. Malam Nasir, what are your impressions about the 2011 presidential elections in Nigeria?
Well, I think the preparations for the elections were very good. The voters register was excellent, in my view, the best we've ever had in our history. And the process, the ritual of accreditation and voting and counting of votes and so on all went very well, as in the book. But in my opinion, based on my experience in Abuja and reports we've got from other parts of the country, things began to go wrong after the voting and the counting of votes and the declaration of the results at polling unit level. Systematic manipulation of figures and padding of votes took place at various levels at the ward collation centers and local government collation centers, which in the end, in my opinion, in many states, affected the credibility of the elections. I mean, it is difficult statistically to persuade me that in a particular state, 99.9% would vote for one candidate. It's just statistically difficult to accept. Secondly, in many states like Rivers, where the governor came out and said voter turnout was very low, the results that finally were announced showed a 76% voter turnout. There is a disconnect, because there is nowhere in the world that 76% will be considered low voter turnout. So in my opinion, there has been a great improvement over previous elections. And the fact that we have a biometric voters register means that in time, all those that cheat or rig elections can be cut out, because it all requires taking the ballots through a biometric verification process, and it will reveal the overnight thumbprintings. So, well, we've made progress, but the elections are far from perfect, and in my opinion, are deeply flawed.
Thank you, Malam Nasir. Thank you. Okay, now, I don't know, sometimes you've read in books or maybe you've seen movies where mentors and their proteges, they disagree. And today, you're going to see that in reality. I'm going to be talking about youth, but in actual part, the title of my speech is how social media and how to achieve credible elections for Nigeria. Now, a lot of you were here. I see Ms. Joy Oyego, and I see Bill, I see Tom. A lot of you were here on the 22nd of April, not here actually, at the US Institute for Peace, where I talked about creating a portal. Because if you recall, I said we're going to make this election free and fair. We're not going to depend on the government. We're not going to depend on INEC. We can do it. Youths in other countries have done it, and we're going to do it. And we actually set up a platform. It's called i-witnessnigeria.com. And Malam Nasir was kind enough. In fact, some of the presidential candidates were kind enough to put it on their Facebook pages. It was in the media. And the elections in Nigeria were, it was almost like, how many of you saw Desert Storm? You know, you watched it on TV where you could actually see some of those bombs going all the way to the buildings and then hitting the buildings get destroyed. It was just like that. We were actually at the polling units. We saw events at the polling units. Sometimes you could actually talk to some of the youths that had almost like a webcam device. We had 10,000 texts, videos, audios, emails from different polling units all over Nigeria. And just before the elections, we all saw that INEC postponed the elections. A lot of people complained, but as Malam Nasir said, it turned out to be a good omen. And this is the principal reason why it turned out to be a good omen. The president went to Otoke, his hometown in Bayelsa, to vote. General Muhammad Buhari was in Daura. The vice president was in Kaduna. Nobody knew that the elections were going to be postponed. It was a surprise. In fact, some people heard it before the president because his homestead is in a remote place. So that actually showed that the INEC was independent. And then going from there, Malam Nasir said we cannot have credible elections unless we find a way of getting results directly from the polling units to the chairman. Now, I interviewed Professor Adefuye, and I asked him on camera, it's a very popular video on YouTube, I asked him, I said, if I build a portal for you where we can present election results to you, and where we can actually show you evidence of malpractice, will you accept that? And then will you prosecute people that we catch on camera? And he told me yes. And next thing, we had 10,000 results from polling units, just about 10,000. And in more than 95% of the cases, what we had tallied with what INEC actually had. So I mean, like 95%, I mean, if you're in college, if someone has 95%, what do you call that? So we already have what Malam Nasir is talking about. The youth did it. It's there. You don't have to take my word for it. Go to eyewitnessnigeria.com. I was the first person in the world to project the elections going to Jonathan. Because from what we saw, even before INEC actually before INEC announced him, I was the first person in the world. And then from me, sorry, not from me, I mean from Bill of Nigeria, Eyewitness Nigeria, several people projected the results for Jonathan because it was clear. And then also, Malam Nasir talked about party agents not being allowed at the collation center. In fact, I have to say this election, and I think Mr. Pham alluded to it, party agents were, in fact, almost over-involved in the process. And the INEC was so eager to make the process so free that they bent over backwards. They allowed them. Party agents were at the collation centers. Party agents, there was even a case, I have it on video, it's a viral bit, where a party agent helped an elderly woman, I think she was about 80 years old, helped her, actually did this for her. Watch that. Actually did that. You know, so this election, no one should take the shine of it. This election was free and fair and credible.
My name is Reno Omokri, and I've just been a panelist at the Atlantic Council. I'm sorry about the background noise. There's a lot of everybody's excited, but I've got with me Oronto Douglas, who is a senior special assistant to the president on research and strategy, and I've got His Excellency Adefuye, professor of history, the ambassador of Nigeria to the US. And Your Excellency, I just want to ask you: everybody praises elections. Festus Mogai actually said he was pleasantly surprised. This is the most credible election in Nigeria's history. Can you just take a minute to just talk to the world, tell them how Nigeria was able to do this and what your impressions are about these elections?
Well, the answers are simple. One, we had a man of proven integrity to be the chairman of INEC, and was given all the encouragement he needed. He was given the financial wherewithal, he was given independence of action, and you had a president who was committed to having a free, fair and credible election. And said to his admirers, his supporters, do not rig for me, and if I lose the election, I will go home, I will go back to my village. So Nigeria was committed, and we also had during the process of the election, after having a very good party primaries and social registration, we were able to use our youth people, the members of the Nigerian Youth Service Corps, who are employed to man all the process of election. And they displayed that Nigeria really has a good future because they displayed exceptional competence in handling the matters. And so there's also the underlying factor. The average Nigerian was committed to a free, fair and credible election. I was determined to do it. And you had a president who was also committed. That is the bottom line. You had a president who was committed to a free and fair election and was ready to do it for the interest of Nigeria. And those are the two factors that played on to.
I've got Oronto Douglas, one of the closest aides to Mr. President. I really want the Nigerian people to know how we did this because this is wonderful. Everybody says, everybody says that this was the best election ever. Can you tell us how this went through, how this played out?
Nigeria made it. Nigerians are responsible for the victory that we've had. It is not one person, it is a collective effort as a people, and we were determined to enthrone democracy. We were determined to ensure that free and fair election prevailed. Jonathan was the leader that made that happen, opening up governance spaces, preaching at every turn, insisting that free and fair elections should be. In fact, his slogan was one man, one vote, one woman, one vote, one youth, one vote, and insisted on this even at to the detriment of his own candidacy. Appointing people of credibility. People see only Jega, but around Jega are men and women that were also appointed by Mr. President, and they were sent all over the country. And if you remember, in appointing these people, Mr. President had promised that he is going to insist that only men and women of outstanding degree are elected, are appointed to position of authority so that they can midwife the process that we find ourselves today. I think we've taken a very serious, very firm step to ensure that justice prevails in Nigeria. Like the Chinese will say, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. We have taken that first step. We are determined that this first step is does not waver, and we will get there bit by bit, step by step, and then that eventually Nigerians will be proud that we made it.
Oronto Douglas, it's been nice talking to you.
Thank you
very much.
Yeah.
Let's get Rufai. Sorry, I'll start again. Ambassador Sanders has been the former U.S. ambassador to Nigeria. She's an expert on Nigeria. She sat on the National Security Council with the former President Bush. Now, I want her to talk to us about her impressions about these elections. Ambassador Sanders?
Well, these are my personal comments only. I think that, I've taken my lead from the international observers that have made comments, and I do think that from knowing Nigeria's history, looking at all of the elections of the past, that this really has been a real incredible free and fair elections. Certainly the points that were raised about the challenges that are there in terms of checking some of the accusations that have been made, we all agree that that has to be done. But first and foremost, we all hope that it can be done in a peaceful manner, that the violence will stop, and that people will try to find a way to address their concerns and those issues in a peaceful manner so that Nigerians can move forward. I mean, the resilience and the resolve of Nigerian people I've always believed in. And I've always talked about how committed they were to making a better future for their nation and really be an example for the sub-region and for the continent writ large. And I think you're at an opportunity point here. You're at the game point, I would call, where that page has been turned. So let's capitalize on it so that, the aspirations of your generation and those that come after you will certainly be realized. And I think that's the most important thing. And the friends of Nigeria, and I'm speaking as a friend of Nigeria personally, it's really the thing I'd like to see the most for your nation.
Oh, Ambassador Sanders, it's been nice talking to you. Thank you very much. I'm with Peter Pham, the director of the Michael S. Ansari African Center at the Atlantic Council, where we are. And he's going to be talking to us about his impressions about the Nigerian elections. He was there as an observer. So, Mr. Pham, what are your impressions about the elections? Were they free and fair?
Well, I take the elections in the context of Nigeria's political history and the elections that have taken place in the past. Certainly in contrast to 2003, 2007, these were a remarkable improvement. The process, I think, showed great transparency, great voter participation and anticipation, and in fact the results reflect, I think, generally speaking, the will of the Nigerian people. Were there imperfections? Yes, I witnessed some myself as an observer, but do they vitiate the result? I don't think so. I think Nigeria has taken a significant step forward, and it's hope that this is just the first of many steps on Nigeria's continued advancement.
Thank you for talking to me, Peter.
Okay.